Hi there, welcome back. And today I'm going to talk about my fourth rock and roll series marathon race, which was in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, last September. And that actually, of the rock and roll, that's probably my second favorite race after Arizona. I've done five. No. Okay, maybe it's my third favorite. After Arizona, but Las Vegas I think was my favorite. But anyway, it had an experience in it that I think I may have talked a little bit about when I ran in Lake Placid, finishing on the speed skating oval there in Lake Placid, and having warmed up for 10K in Cooperstown on Doubleday Field. Uh, but this was a very almost even more special uh, thing than either of those. Um, so I live in upstate New York, so we drove up to Montreal last September. We stayed at a hotel that was right, like, here was the hotel, here was the start, here was the finish. So that was really cool that we got to do that, and my family they could see, the finish line from our room. So got there, went to the expo, got all my packet and everything, and it was a it was a pretty decent expo. I don't really remember spending a lot of time in it, but it was a nice little place. We found out afterwards, of course, that we could have gone all the way down to like the basement level in our hotel and walked that way instead of going outside and walking down and then walking back uphill. But yeah, let's see. Trying to think if we ate anywhere special. I don't think we really ate anywhere special that weekend because it turned out that the Hard Rock Cafe that we would have wanted to eat at had closed down years prior. So we just found a couple nice little restaurants nearby that we had lunch and supper in. So next morning, woke up, and like I said, able to get right to the start line very easily. We did run into an issue where we did not start on time. We ended up waiting an extra hour before the race could start. And I forgot to note that this was a half and a full marathon. I, of course, was doing the half, but they were also doing a full marathon. And so that was kind of frustrating, especially when we found out afterwards that it was essentially because someone made some logistical errors. There weren't enough volunteers or police on the route, so that was not the best look for the race. And I had already dealt with a few months prior at the Boilermaker. We had had a murder happen just before the race start along the course. So that, when I was running the Boilermaker, we had that delay. So, and I think I heard the announcers make some comment about police on the course, and I was like, oh, don't tell me I'm at another race where some horrible thing has happened. So, luckily that wasn't the case. It was just there weren't enough people, volunteers, and law enforcement along the route. But I also found out later from a cop that I work with who is also on the race board for the Boilermaker that apparently there was a death on the course during the race. Unfortunately, a half marathon runner collapsed like within a kilometer of the finish line. And because of the lack of volunteers and lack of law enforcement, the runner passed away because EMTs weren't able to get to him fast enough because of all the lack of volunteers, etc. So, suffice to say, the race director stepped down after the fiasco. But anyway, enough of the negativity of that. The course itself was incredible. It was really cool running through a city like Montreal the way I did. Seeing a lot of things I've never seen before. This was my second race outside of the country. You know, for someone, especially like me living in upstate New York, it's kind of weird to think of Canada as a separate country, but it is. And yeah, but it was a lot of fun running through the city of Montreal, hearing the French language and people cheering us on, and hearing both the French and the English as people were running through the city. The really amazing part though, I want to say it was about halfway through the race. We went down into, and I remember, I think even saying out loud, like, what are we doing running through a parking garage? This is weird. What are we doing? I don't understand. And then came out, well, didn't really come out, but went into the main part of the building, and it was I'm not sure what they call it, but it was the Olympic Stadium, where they held the Olympics back, I think in the 80s. And that was a very surreal experience. Probably my most surreal. I remember having kind of a surreal thing with, and I remember talking about it with, when I was talking about Lake Placid, I mentioned the Cooperstown, warming up on Doubleday Field and thinking of the baseball players playing on that field. This was even more surreal. All these, legendary athletes who trained and did their events for the Olympics in the stadium, and all the other sporting events and whatever that have happened in that building. So that was very surreal, and it made it even more surreal as you're going around the oval. And they had a big screen, and it was filming you as you were running through the oval. So you could see yourself and a bunch of other people up there on the big screen, and there was a huge team of cheerleaders cheering us all on. So it was just a very, very surreal moment for me in my running career doing that. Got finished. The only really negative experience that I had was the getting done and trying to get back to the hotel. Now, for those who have not done many large racing events, the chutes can be very long. you can be walking for like another half mile up to a mile after finishing a race sometimes, collecting bananas and sports drinks and orange juice and chocolate milk and water and sports beans and all manner of things to help uh, reinvigorate you post race. So usually with shoots, they all lead to one specific exit, and you have to go all the way to the end of the shoot before you can do anything else, like walk around the finish village or go back to your hotel or what have you. So I had signed up for the heavy metals program from Rock and Roll, and I had also, because this was an international race, I was able to get a special medal for having done a race in 2 different countries through Rock and Roll. So I'd done, up to that point, I'd done Arizona, Chicago, yeah, Arizona and Chicago that year. You have to do it in a calendar year to get the special medal. I should note that. So I had already done 2 races in the U.S. through Rock and Roll, so this was my third, and it was an international race, so I was getting special medals in the mail, and then I was able to pick one up at the race. And I always go and I get my medal engraved with my time. The only thing with the race was this was one Rock and Roll. I can't even see it in my, oh, there it is. This was one uh, Rock and Roll race where I was not very impressed with the medal. I mean, it's cool. They've got like a not surrealist, but a kind of modernist or whatever artwork of the Olympic Stadium. But aside from that, it's very plain looking to me. So it's not one of their better medals, but anyway, so I got that. I was getting that engraved like I do with all the Rock and Roll races and Disney races and whatever other ones that I can have an engraving done on site. So I did that, and then I went to pick up my international medal. Now, remember what I said about the chute. Normally, as I said, the chute just keeps going. You're blocked until you get to the end of the chute, then you can leave. This, for whatever reason, they had a break in between at one point. So you could either turn left and just go into the city, or turn right and go into the finished village without going to the end of the chute. So I should have realized this because normally at the end of the shoot you can get a professional photo done of you with your medal, which I always do, and I didn't, think about it. I just was trying to find my family and go get the medal engraved and get the other medal because I was an hour behind because of the delay, and we didn't have much time left before we had to check out from the hotel, and I still had to go up to the hotel room, do my stretching, and have a quick shower. So I had gone out, I did my thing, and I was going to go back through. I got stopped by security telling me, nope, you need to go a different way. And keep in mind, I'd already seen, I don't know how many people walk through, and I tried to explain, I need to get to my hotel. I'm almost out of time. And I understand, safety and everything. But it was, I don't know, just the way he spoke to me and the way everything, the way he acted, I was very, uh, what's the word, kind of put off by, his behavior. So, but the thing was, I went and I found the end of the shoot, and I saw the photographers, so I quick got in line, got my picture taken with my 2 medals. Then I went around, ran up to the hotel, did my stretching, took my shower, we checked out, started back home, stopped, I think, at a Tim Hortons to have breakfast or lunch, and made our way back home. So, the only other things, Montreal is another one that Rock and Roll has stated, making it sound like they're never going to be running that race again. As I said, this past race, there were some issues with, and the same thing like with Chicago, there were some issues with that. Again, I'm going to discuss my theories on what exactly is going on with these races in a later video. I've got one more race I want to talk about from Rock and Roll, and then I'll talk about that. But I will note that I know for sure that Montreal is not. It's more there. I think there are some races that are specifically Rock and Roll, and then there are other races that had always been there, and then Rock and Roll was like, hey, we want to put our name on your race, and Montreal is one of them. The reason I am pretty sure of that is because on my medal that has the, actually, I can slide this, maybe not, there we go. So this was my medal that I got for doing that. So in here they have all their international races. So you've got Ireland for Dublin, you've got USA, you've got Canada, Monterrey, Mexico, Spain, they do a race in Madrid, Colombia, United Kingdom for Liverpool, they do a race in Chengdu, China, and then they added Santiago, Chile not long ago. So, I don't know if you can see, you might need to pause to get a good look, but for each stamp, they have the date where the first race was run under the Rock and Roll moniker. So for Canada, it has September 23rd, 2013. Now the significance of this is the fact that when I was waiting for the start, they were talking about the history of the race, and they made a comment that I was like, but no, I didn't know then. Once I got this, I got thinking about it and thought, well, that's weird. Because I think they said something like 10 years running or 20 years running or something else. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird because when I got this, because, it says the first race was 2013. So I kind of deduced based on that little bit of information that the 2013 date was the first time that the race was run under the Rock and Roll name. So I think a lot of these races are races that had always been there, been run. It's just Rock and Roll put their name on it. So that, I guess my point is, with some of these races, it may not be the end of the race. It's just that it may be the last time for a while that it will be run with the Rock and Roll name. And I'll get more into more of my reasoning behind that in a couple weeks. So for now, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and comment below. It really helps me out. If you can, please become a patron on my Patreon. The link's in the description. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and I'll see you next time for the Rock and Roll Las Vegas video. Until then, remember, we're in it for the long run. Peace and love.